The stars shimmered like cold fireflies in the black sea of space, uncaring and distant. Among them drifted a ship that looked more like a relic than a threat. Its hull scarred with old burns, its paint a chaotic splash of pinks, purples, and bruised blues, chipped and dulled by time. It moved slowly, if at all, rotating just slightly with the inertia of a derelict, forgotten vessel. To any passing eye, it was an artifact of a lost battle or a ghost ship whose crew had long since stopped breathing. From a vantage cloaked in gravitational shadow, the alien flotilla observed in silence. Aboard the bridge of the Zar-AK command cruiser, Commander Veshtal's tendrils twitched with anticipation. "Human!" he hissed, spitting the word like a curse. One ship, no escorts. Alone. The tactical advisor beside him offered a guttural hum. Primitive design. Poorly maintained. Likely automated or abandoned. Veshtal sneered, a flex of mandibles and scaled lips. Either way, it belongs to us now. Their species, the Qatari, had faced human resistance before, bloody, unpredictable skirmishes where strategy often gave way to chaos. But this was a gift. One ship in neutral space. No military presence. No defenses. Too easy. Inside the human vessel, beneath the flickering glow of red emergency lights, Commander Rhea's soul sat cross-legged on the floor of the central command bay, her eyes closed, breath even. The silence wasn't comforting. It was calculating. She wasn't praying or meditating. She was waiting. "Nix," she said softly. "Yes, Commander?" Came the smooth, almost musical reply from the ship's AI. Its voice echoed with a faint undertone of amusement, as if always on the edge of laughter. "Have they seen us yet?" "They're scanning us now. For ships, light recon class. One command cruiser holding back, likely Qatari. Scans show minimal threat recognition. They think we're trash." Rhea opened her eyes. They were a pale, striking gray, hard and steady. She stood, her joints popping quietly in the low-grav environment. Her suit hissed as it adjusted to her movement. "Good. Keep playing dead." With pleasure. On the other side of the void, the Qatari ships closed in, gliding like sharks toward wounded prey. Energy lances charged quietly, boarding hooks readied. No shields were raised. They expected no resistance. Inside the derelict, lights flickered to full brightness. Engines, once dormant, whispered back to life. It wasn't a resurrection. It was a reveal. 3 seconds. Nick said. Rhea took her place at the console. Her hands hovered above the controls. Fingertips almost reverent. "Let's remind them why you don't poke a sleeping beast." Outside, the closest recon ship moved within tethering range. A magnetic pulse shot from its prow, latching onto human hull with a clang that echoed across space. They began reeling it in. And then the human ship moved. Not jerkily, not erratically. It pivoted with purpose, aligning perfectly between the two leading recon ships. There was no dramatic energy surge, no flashy power-up sequence, just a single, precise shot. A glowing lance of high-frequency plasma tore silently across the void and split the nearest Qatari vessel in half. The second ship barely had time to react before its system sparked, glowed, and died. Panic erupted across the alien comms. Veshtal roared orders, his limbs thrashing. Evasive maneuvers. Raised shields. But it was too late. The dormant-looking ship, once thought broken, was already gone from their targeting systems. Cloaked. Invisible. That got their attention. Nick said smugly. Rhea didn't smile. Her fingers moved in fluid, practiced gestures. "Is the cruiser still hanging back?" Affirmative. Their commander seems reluctant to get his hands dirty. He's smart, but not smart enough. From the shadows, her ship fired again, not at the command cruiser, but at space itself, sending decoys and scrambling pulses to simulate the arrival of reinforcements. The alien sensors lit up with ghost ships. 3, then 5, then 9. The Qatari commander barked in confusion as his screens were filled with false threats. "Nix, activate mirror protocol." With flare. Suddenly, the ship lit up in full, not pink and bruised blue anymore, but with shimmering oil-slick sheen. Light bent unnaturally around its hull. The old paint wasn't random. It was a refractive coating, tuned to mimic stellar patterns and reflect signal noise. For months, Rhea and Nix had fine-tuned it, testing it on derelicts and old mining drones until it was indistinguishable from the background of space. Now, it was more than camouflage. It was deception incarnate. The Qatari cruiser moved, finally, launching fighters in a wide spread, but they darted blind, chasing phantoms. Rhea's ship slipped between them, a dagger among flailing claws. 1 minute until we're in prime position to hit their engines, Nix said. Shall I cue a message for them? No. Rhea's voice was calm, firm. No speeches. No warnings. Let the fire do the talking. The ship fired again, this time with twin plasma bursts angled to ricochet off a nearby asteroid field. One struck true. The other served as a distraction. The Qatari formation split. 2 more ships fell. One exploded in silence, scattering molten metal and limbs into the void. The other spun, powerlessly, into the dark, leaking oxygen and screams. Back on the alien bridge, Veshtal stared at the burning remains on his monitors, his chest heaving. This isn't a relic. This is a trap. A damned human trap. He slammed his claws against the console. Recall all ships. Retreat to grid Tesh-9. We'll regroup. Analyze. But even as he gave the order, something in the static made him freeze. A human voice, clear, unencrypted, slipped through the noise like a knife. You picked the wrong ghost to chase. Then silence. Veshtal hissed, slamming a fist into the comms relay. Trace it. Find her. But the signal was already gone. Back aboard the human ship, Rhea sat back, exhaling slowly. Sweat clung to her brow. Her heartbeat was steady, but her fingers trembled slightly, the adrenaline fading. Think they've learned their lesson? Nix asked. Not yet, she replied. But they will. Outside, the wreckage drifted like a metal graveyard, illuminated by the faint red glow of distant stars. Somewhere behind that debris, the Qatari survivors limped away, wounded, afraid. And Rhea watched. She knew more would come. Bigger ships, louder threats. But they wouldn't find a broken vessel. They wouldn't find a helpless human. They would find her, and they'd regret it, just like the first ones did. The stars hadn't moved, but the battlefield had changed. Where once there had been a passive hulk floating through emptiness, now there was a predator in the void. The Qatari command cruiser limped back to a safe distance, cloaking itself in the shimmering shadows of an asteroid belt. Its surviving escorts flickered across scanners, each damaged, each quiet, licking wounds they hadn't expected to suffer. Aboard that cruiser, silence ruled. Veshtal's claws clicked softly against the command console. The room, once filled with barking orders and cruel laughter, now bristled with tension. No one spoke. None dared. Even the air smelled different, burnt, electric, charged with failure. He watched the screen cycle again and again, searching for the enemy vessel, but it remained unseen, hidden, waiting. This ship was never broken, he said finally, almost to himself. It played us. His second officer, scaled in crimson and silver, approached hesitantly. Commander, what if it wasn't just one ship? We detected ghosts, holograms, interference. Veshtal growled low in his throat. We were made fools. Across space, nestled in the sensor-dead zone created by their own wreckage, Rhea's soul watched them. Nix's voice came with a touch more mischief than usual. They're confused. Your message rattled their confidence. Good, Rhea replied, tightening the straps on her vest as she leaned closer to the navigation display. Fear's the first step to doubt. Doubt's the first step to mistakes. Nix pulsed lights along the console in quiet agreement. They've pulled back into the belt. Shields up, weapons charged. No reinforcements yet, but scans show long-range signals being bounced from relay points. They're calling for help. They should. Rhea stared at a representation of the Qatari cruiser, heavily armored, equipped with long-range cannons and a core shield generator larger than her entire ship. In a direct confrontation, it would reduce her to atoms, but she had no intention of going toe-to-toe. We're going to peel it open, she said, piece by piece. The ship responded before Nix did, light shifting to blood red as the command deck sealed. External cameras rotated, aligning for visual scans. Rhea reached across the console and tapped a segment of the map, where drifting debris spun slowly in the cruiser's blind spot. "Send out the veils." Quietly. "Deploying," Nix answered. From hidden bays beneath the ship's hull, a dozen autonomous drones detached and melted into the dark, each shaped like shards of broken metal. They were fast, near invisible, programmed to mimic space junk and less engaged. As they approached the cruiser, they fanned out and latched onto its surface with the precision of parasites. "Now we listen," Rhea whispered. Back aboard the Qatari ship, Veshtal watched his engineers scramble through diagnostics. The external hull repairs had begun, but internal tension was growing. No one wanted to say it aloud, but they all knew it. They had underestimated a human. Again. "Commander," a voice came over the bridge intercom, shaky. "I'm detecting anomalies on the hull. Small, too precise for debris." Veshtal surged from his seat. "Eject external plates, section 14 through 22. Now!" The hull split with explosive force, throwing the attached drones into space. But they had already done their job. Rhea smiled as streams of encrypted data flickered across her console. "They're running low on coolant. 2 of their subreactors are pushing too hot. One's leaking rad signatures," Nix reported, reading the data live. "And their port side guns are glitching. Manual override is offline. Then we carve from that side. Find trajectory. 1 pass. I want to gut them and be gone before they even process what happened." "You're getting creative with your violence," Nix said, almost approvingly. "I've had practice." The plan unfurled like a net, with Nix calculating angles, debris movement, and gravitational shifts in the nearby asteroid field. Rhea plotted a course through a narrow corridor where the ship could accelerate, strike, and vanish. The human ship wasn't built for brute force, but for guile, for surgical aggression. It was a blade disguised as a bludgeon. "Burn in 3, Nix warned. 2, 1. The engines whispered, barely audible, and the ship moved, not with brute power but with calculated grace, slipping through space as it belonged there more than the stars did. Rhea braced herself. The moment of contact would be less than 10 seconds. The Qatari sensors flared too late. By the time the cruiser's alert systems registered the human vessel's approach, it had already fired. Twin plasma lances, focused and precise, speared the cruiser's flank. One struck the weakened coolant system, sending a superheated pulse down the spine of the portside decks. The second detonated just shy of the outer weapons bay, setting off a chain reaction in the gun's exposed power relays. Rhea didn't stay to watch the explosion. She was already gone, vanishing behind an asteroid shadow before the first fireball finished blooming. "Damage assessment?" she asked, her breath steady despite the jolt of acceleration. "Significant. Their shields are up now, but power is fluctuating. They've lost targeting on their left arc fires in multiple compartments. Any movement from the reinforcements? Still pinging relays. They've got 10 minutes at least. Maybe more." "Plenty of time," Rhea said. In the command cruiser's ruined bridge, Veshtal coughed blood. A support beam had cracked during an explosion, collapsing into the command structure. Crew members shouted around him, alarms still wailing. Smoke and the stink of melting alloy filled the air. He forced himself upright, leaning on the edge of a panel. "She's not just attacking," he said through gritted fangs. "She's dissecting us." For the first time, there was fear in his voice. Not just anger, not frustration. True, primal fear. He activated a private channel, his claws trembling slightly. "Send a distress beacon beyond Qatari space. I don't care who hears it. If there's anyone out there, mercenaries, scavengers, even the damn syndicate, pay them. Bring them. We end this now." But the signal flickered and died. Veshtal stared at the screen. "What? Commander!" A technician gasped. "The transmission relays. They've been spiked. We're broadcasting nothing but static loops." "She's cutting us off from the galaxy," Veshtal said, voice hollow. Back in her ship, Rhea monitored the disrupted relay network with cold focus. Her pulse hadn't spiked once. She drank from a hydration tube, leaned back, and considered her next move. "We could leave now," Nix offered, They're crippled. Mission success. Not yet. This wasn't just about one ship. This was about sending a message. A message that says what? That we're watching. That even in the darkest parts of the galaxy, a lone human is never really alone. Nix paused. Then, softly, spoken like someone who still believes in ghosts. Rhea didn't answer. She was already mapping the next run. The Qatari weren't finished yet, but they would be. And when the story of this day traveled across the stars, no one would remember the name of the alien cruiser. They'd only remember the ship that came from nowhere, the one that hunted back, the one that turned ambush into annihilation. And far out in the corner of the sector's forgotten map, beacons flickered quietly, new signals, traveling slowly but surely through space. Someone was listening, watching. The stars over this corner of the galaxy pulsed with strange new rhythms, like war drums echoing through space. Debris still drifted lazily from the Qatari cruiser's last encounter, curling in slow spirals as the fires died and hull fragments cooled. Yet Rhea's soul didn't linger. She'd long since slipped into the next phase, a predator changing terrain. Her ship skimmed just above the magnetic ridge of a dead moon, signal profile buried within its electromagnetic shadow. It was a temporary haven, a place to regroup, reload, and reassess. On the central screen, the fractured cruiser flickered in and out of long-range view, a digital ghost, damaged, humiliated, but far from finished. Telemetry shows they're not retreating, Nix observed. They're reconfiguring their defenses. Secondary energy spikes on their dorsal side, possibly new weapons coming online. They're adapting, Rhea said. Good. Makes them predictable. She leaned back in her seat, legs stretched, a ration bar in one hand, eyes distant. The fatigue was starting to scratch at her bones. Her body wanted rest. Her mind refused it. They won't make the same mistake twice, Nix added, softer now. We hit them again. It'll be under different terms. They made more than one mistake, Rhea muttered. They assumed the sky was empty. They assumed humans would scatter. They thought a lone ship meant easy prey. She stood and crossed to the rear of the cockpit. A weapons crate hissed open, and she pulled out a fresh charge core for her pulse rifle. The metal glowed faintly in the dim light, humming with captured fire. Her hands worked in practiced silence. But now they're scared. You saw the beacon they tried to send, desperate, wide-cast, blind. That wasn't protocol. That was fear. They may not be the only ones watching, Nix replied, her voice dipping into something like warning. Encrypted pings. Unknown origin. Tightly beamed. Someone else is tracking this sector. Then it's working, Rhea said, clicking the charge core into place. The traps baited. She returned to the console, pulling up the sector's three-dimensional grid. At its center, the Qatari cruiser. Farther out, blinking intermittently, unverified contacts, distant observers, ships or stations, or just data ghosts. Hard to say, but they were closer now than before. They won't interfere unless they see something worth interfering for, she murmured. So we give them something. You're escalating. I'm inviting witnesses. Back aboard the Qatari vessel, Veshtal limped down the central corridor of the tactical wing. Painkillers dulled the worst of the damage to his side, but each step sent heat lancing through his ribs. The ship still stank of ozone and leaking coolant. Whole decks had gone dark. Yet morale had not completely crumbled. Not yet. His crew watched him pass with a mixture of respect and unease. The human strikes had been too precise to ignore, too strategic to dismiss as luck. A lone ship had made them bleed. Inside the war room, his top officer stood around a fractured table display, the central hollow cracked and glitching. A jagged image of Rhea's ship spun slowly above it. They had only fragmented data, brief visuals, distorted scans, but already it had become an icon, something more myth than machine. This thing is running circles around us, growled his gunnery chief. It's like fighting a shadow. We can't hit what we can't see. Then you don't understand what you're fighting, Veshtal said, dragging a claw across the flickering image. It's not stealth. It's strategy. It's psychology. He stared at the jagged ship. She's not trying to kill us. Not outright. Not yet. She's trying to break us apart. The others fell silent. Veshtal looked up. We will not be broken. Not by a single human. Prepare a decoy ship. Strip one of the escorts down to its bones. Fill it with remote turrets and heat baffles. Make it look like her next kill. When she bites, we clamp. And if she doesn't fall for it, ask the officer to his left. She will... Veshtal's eyes gleamed. Because predators always come back to finish the wounded. Hours passed. Then came the moment. Rhea watched the cruiser's movement from afar, her eyes narrowing. One of the escorts was peeling off, limping badly, radiating damage. Engine output was lopsided. Life signs were faint. Looks like they're abandoning it, Nick said. Scans show low power, broken weapons. A drifting husk. It's bait, Rhea said instantly. Nix paused. Agreed, but they may look good. That's the point, Rhea muttered. They want me to bite. They want the same pattern. She studied the readings, noted subtle inconsistencies. Too clean, too timed, but it didn't matter. Let's give them what they want. Nix paused. You're still going after it? Of course, but not how they expect. The decoy ship drifted to the graveyard of its brethren, powered low, appearing helpless. Rhea's vessel approached at an angle she'd never used before, slow, cautious, mimicking uncertainty. Just another scan run, a curious predator poking a carcass. Hidden turrets hummed silently to life. Then, without warning, a second Qatari ship uncloaked behind her, a twin-engine interceptor, designed for close-quarter interception. Plasma nets fired in rapid sequence, converging to trap her in place. But Rhea had already moved. Her ship dropped power in a full shutdown, feigning an engine stall, then kicked back with an emergency pulse that threw it violently upward, out of the trap zone, over the decoy ship, flipping the entire scenario. In the same breath, Nix released a countermeasure that jammed the interceptor's targeting system. The Qatari turrets opened fire on their own decoy. Rhea pivoted and vanished into the asteroid field, but not before dropping a set of cloaked sensor spikes, each one a full recorder, broadcasting live. They'd just fired on their own crippled vessel. Nix noted with amusement. Think anyone out there noticed? Rhea asked, Absolutely. For different signals are locking on our vector. One of them is syndicate grade. They're watching now. Rhea allowed herself a grin. Good. She drifted her ship into a slow arc, vanishing deeper into the asteroid field. The Qatari regrouped, now angry, now humiliated, again, and out beyond them, those distant watchers stirred. The story was no longer just hers. It was spreading now, star by star. Space was no longer silent. Signals buzzed through the void like bees roused from slumber. Encrypted calls, tactical pings, fragments of intercepted chatter. Across the fractured quadrant, Rhea Soul's name was never spoken directly, but it lingered in every whisper. She had become a phantom, a legend with edges sharp enough to bleed. In the dark of her cockpit, lit only by the dull glow of sensor readings and slow-rotating astrogation charts, Rhea leaned forward, eyes fixed on the heart of the Qatari fleet. The cruiser still stood, scarred, bruised, more vigilant than before. Around it clustered new arrivals. Syndicate scouts, pirate vessels in patchwork hulls, mercenary frigates that blinked with predatory software. They hadn't come to help the Qatari. They'd come to see who would fall next. They're circling like carrion, Nix whispered. Waiting. For what? For you to rise or be devoured. Rhea exhaled slowly. Her hands didn't shake, not even now. She'd pushed the Qatari to desperation, triggered something far larger than she'd set out to. It was no longer just about one ship, one battle. The system was listening now. I need their attention, she said. All of them. Even the Syndicate? Especially them. The Syndicate had ruled this stretch of void with invisible claws. Their influence never screamed. It whispered, paid, silenced. But they respected one thing, power. And Rhea had taken it, flash by flash, in the cold dark. She powered up the communication relay, set it to broadcast on every open and black market channel, and recorded her voice without a tremor to the scavengers watching from the dark. To the Syndicate ears pretending to be deaf. To the Mercs hoping I make your job easier. You see the Qatari fleet. You know their history. You've seen what one ship did. And I'm not done. She paused and smiled faintly. If you want to profit, move. If you want to survive, stay out of my way. She cut the transmission before doubt could follow her words. The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It was anticipatory. They'll come now. Nick said. They were already coming, Rhea replied. She redirected the ship's trajectory, low across the asteroid field's dense interior, threading through collapsing icebergs and fields of shattered iron. Every path was calculated, every movement silent. She wasn't fast. She was invisible until she wasn't. The Qatari had changed tactics again. Now their remaining escorts formed a shifting net. Drones deployed in overlapping spheres to flush her out. The trap wasn't elegant, but it was persistent. Veshtal had learned. But Rhea hadn't stopped evolving either. She launched a single pulse drone, set it spinning at the edge of the debris field. It emitted ghost signatures. 5 different human ship profiles, all outdated, all false. The Qatari net shifted, pursuers breaking formation to investigate. Rhea took the gap. She surged forward under cover of the false signal, flying belly low and shield silent. Her target was no longer the ship, it was its brain. The relay hub buried beneath the Qatari cruiser's dorsal ridge. 10 seconds of weapons range. Nix warned. No weapons, Rhea said. There was a pause. I'm sorry. We can't destroy them. Not outright. We need them to survive, just barely. That seems contrary to your usual methods. I want them alive to remember this, she said, and I want everyone else to see them retreat. She disabled primary weapons and rerouted all available energy to her kinetic harpoon, a mining tool adapted for boarding. It wasn't meant for this, but she'd made it sing before. Mark the relay junction. Exact coordinates. We only get one shot. Locked. Calculating path. There's a narrow vent corridor that'll dump plasma within a few seconds of breach. You'll have to be in and out in less than a minute. I've had worse, Rhea muttered. She fired. The harpoon launched with a silent shudder, latching onto the Qatari cruiser with a magnetic punch that bypassed shields by syncing with their maintenance cycle, a vulnerability most captains didn't even know existed. Her ship reeled itself in, fast and brutal, locking flush against the hull. Rhea was already moving, suit sealed, pulse rifle ready, oxygen level steady. She breached the hatch manually, silent charge, one twist, one breath, and slipped inside. The Qatari hallway was too tall, meant for creatures half again her size. Red emergency lights flickered in frantic warning. She moved like liquid to the corridor, rifle low, heart slow. Nick spoke softly into her comms. Junctions 2 turns left. You'll hit resistance. I expect it. The first Qatari patrol rounded the corner too late. Rhea dropped them before the second blink. Stun rounds, not lethal. Let them wake up and remember. Let them speak of her. She reached the junction, yanked open the relay interface, and slammed a coded spike into its core. Data burst out in all directions. Encrypted files, Qatari fleet specs, ship logs, secret transmissions. But more importantly, it broadcast a signal. A single image across all channels. The mighty Qatari cruiser, on fire, breach helpless, and her ship, the Ghost, flying free. That's enough, she said. Pull me. Nix retracted the harpoon line. Rhea launched herself back through the vent corridor seconds before it purged. Her suit scorched, alarm screaming in her ear. She slammed back into her ship's airlock, rolled through it, tore the helmet off, panting. Nix was already rerouting. We got 15 different channels replaying the footage. Pirate ships are repositioning. Syndicate scouts are backing off. And the Qatari, retreating, limping toward the edge of the system. Their flagship just dropped a null signal. Classic surrender move. Not to us. To everyone. Rhea sat in her chair and laughed once, low and exhausted. They don't know who to fear anymore. Or who to follow, Nix added. The ship drifted slowly away from the cruiser, toward the outer rim of the system. No pursuit followed. No challenge emerged. Just silence, thick and reverent. Rhea stared out at the stars. You think this ends here? Nix asked. No, Rhea said. This was a prologue. Somewhere far from this field of wreckage, in the cold halls of an unknown station, eyes watched the footage replay. A voice, rough with age and power, murmured to the shadows gathered around it. Find her, before the others do.